Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack fascinating sources and pull out those insights that, well, really help you get well informed. Today, we're diving into something pretty universal, that desire, that goal, sometimes that struggle, how to actually become wealthy. And our source, it's quite specific, a YouTube video transcript called How to Become Rich by thewizardliz. What's really grabbed us is her story. She went from, a poor immigrant background to being a billionaire by 24. That's quite the journey.
Yeah, and she makes this bold claim right off the bat. This isn't some paid course material. It's what she calls free wisdom, the very principles, she says, others are charging multi-millions for. So our mission really is to dig into that, extract those core ideas, those practical nuggets she shares about building wealth.
Okay, let's unpack this. Where does she even begin? It's maybe not where you'd expect. It seems less about just making money and more about how far your contribution reaches.
Exactly. She really zeroes in on this principle of influence, the core idea.
Yeah.
Pretty simple, actually. If you want more wealth, you need to sell to or impact more people. Scale matters. She tells this great little anecdote. A teacher making maybe $2,000 a month had this board game kids loved, parents loved it too, kept saying, you should earn more from this.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until she really got this influence idea, took the game worldwide, she says, to millions of kids. And then she started making millions. It just clicks, doesn't it? Scale equals bigger returns.
Right. It's a powerful example.
And you see it everywhere, she points out. Music artists, their songs hit hundreds of millions. That's the scale. Authors, comedians. Even Liz herself, right?
Yeah.
She has over 10 million people following her stuff. It's interesting. She mentions how she used to avoid brand deals at first, but then she realized that's not really how it works. There's this universal law, she calls it. You must receive when you give. Otherwise, you just feel depleted. It's got to be a two-way street.
Okay, so scale of influence is key. But what kind of influence? It can't just be about getting rich for yourself, surely.
No, absolutely not. And that's our next big point, helping others and delivering service. She puts it very bluntly. You only become wealthy by helping others. Her belief is fundamental. We're all created to help each other.
It's not just like a nice idea, it's the engine of wealth creation.
So it forces you to ask different questions.
Right. Not just what do I want, but what problem can I solve? How can I make someone's life genuinely easier or better?
Yeah.
She gives loads of examples. Clothes, they cover you, yeah, but they also help you express yourself. Makeup, confidence, her videos, advice, motivation, comedians. They make people laugh, put them in a high vibrational state, she calls it.
High vibrational state, so like good energy. Yeah, basically positive vibes. Which she believes attracts more positivity, including financial success, by making people more receptive. But it applies broadly. Twitch streamers, entertaining people, football players, even just a mug you drink from, it's a service. And here's the kicker, her big warning. If your only goal is, I just want to become rich for me, she says you will never ever become rich. Wealth comes through other people and for other people by delivering something they need or want.
That's a really powerful framing. Wealth is a side effect of service. But, okay, even with the best intentions, what about our own baggage, our thoughts about money? Liz seemed to think that's huge.
Oh, absolutely crucial, this internal stuff, addressing negative thoughts about money. She argues that so many people subconsciously have these fears or weird associations, like people with money are evil or just money is bad.
Yeah, you hear that sometimes.
And she's open about her own struggles. Even when she got big, she was scared to properly monetize. Actually admitted, feeling afraid of accepting like $100 million. Not because she didn't want it, but she worried it would kill her drive, her passion, that need to hustle.
That's fascinating. Fear of success, almost.
Kind of, and her explanation is interesting. Money just amplifies who you are. So a good person, they become even more generous. She talks about giving her last $2 to her brother back when she had nothing. But a bad person, they just get worse with more money. These beliefs, she notes, often come from our parents. And she throws out this provocative idea, too, that broke people will use you more than anyone else, which certainly challenges some assumptions.
Wow, okay, so what's the fix then, if you have these negative thoughts?
Her advice is practical. Rewire your mind. She suggests things like money meditation affirmation, using phrases like, money loves me, I love money, I deserve to have money, actively changing that internal script. And she also pushes back against the idea that struggle is cool, to suggest that maybe that's a narrative the wealthy promote to, keep others down. That's a bold take.
Definitely provocative. So, rewiring your mind, getting clear internally, how does that connect to actually doing something, to putting your passion out there? Because she insists you have to love what you do.
Yes, 100%. Loving what you do or sell It's non-negotiable for her. She believes that real conviction, the kind people actually respond to, only comes if you genuinely believe in your own product or service. And she uses herself as proof. So she literally watches her own videos when she's feeling low, truly believes she's a gem, an icon, feels like she lives for this. That's Kanda.
Well, that's conviction.
You can't fake that level of belief. Exactly.
Yeah.
And her warning follows. You cannot put something out there that you don't even love and try to sell it. Because that negative or just lukewarm energy, she says everyone can feel it. So it really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it, how much do you actually believe in what you're offering?
Yeah, that's a deep question. Okay, so the inner game mindset, passion, belief seems foundational. But then you step out into the world. What about the actual financial moves? She starts with a big reality check about appearances, right?
She does. A really important one. Being actually rich versus trying to look rich.
Yeah.
She warns against just putting on a show. Points out that, actual wealthy people often aren't flashy. They don't always need to be.
Right, the whole stealth wealth idea.
Sort of. And she argues that luxury brands often target insecure people, people looking for validation outside themselves, when really that validation needs to come from within. That's her core message there.
And the danger.
The danger is going broke, trying to look rich, getting stuck in an unsustainable lifestyle. She mentions celebrities, for instance, with huge overheads, assistants, managers, the works. And you have to ask, what if the fame dries up? What if you're a footballer and get injured?
The expenses don't just disappear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That rich lifestyle becomes a massive liability, a trap, not real wealth.
That makes perfect sense. And it leads right into another core concept, assets versus liabilities. Pretty fundamental stuff.
It's totally fundamental, but she breaks it down really simply. Assets versus liabilities. She gives you this one key question to ask yourself whenever you buy something. Is this thing going to give me a bigger return, or am I just losing money? Simple as that.
So define assets for us, according to Liz.
Okay, assets are things that make you money, or at least grow in value. Examples she gives. Renting out a fancy car you own, or maybe turning a big house into an Airbnb, making a down payment on an apartment so you can collect rent from tenants, things that generate income.
Makes sense.
She even has this intriguing example, a Birkin bag.
A handbag as an asset.
Yeah, apparently, unlike most luxury bags, some Birkins can actually appreciate. You can potentially resell for higher. It's specific, though. Requires knowing that market. It's definitely the exception, not the rule for luxury goods.
Okay, noted. And liabilities.
Liabilities are the opposite. Things that just cost you money with no return. Most luxury bags, she says, just will rot away in a closet. They lose value. That's a liability. So her directive is crystal clear. Try to minimize your liabilities and maximize your assets. Build things that pay you back.
Very clear framework. Now, speaking of protecting assets, she gets quite specific about financial safety, especially for women in relationships. This felt quite pointed.
It did, and clearly rooted in her own experiences. She gives some very direct advice on smart financial decisions, especially for women dating. Her point is, if a woman isn't working, if she's supported by a partner, she needs to ensure he's either setting up a business for her in her name, or that actual money is going into her bank account for her own investments.
Not just like access to his money.
Exactly. She shares this really stark personal story. An ex gave her a credit card, then just took it back. And she was left with, nice bags, some jewelry, but zero independent financial power.
Ouch. That's vulnerable.
Totally. So her message is strong. Do not trust a man who only gives you a credit card. She sees that as control. Instead, invest in yourself. She mentions things like getting your teeth done, practical things, and make sure assets, like cars bought for you, are actually in your name. Her perspective is blunt. Men, she claims, do not care about marriage or kids in the same way, and a prenup could leave you with nothing.
That's a very strong stance.
It is her bottom line. A woman must always have her own money. Financial independence is paramount. It's about security, not just wealth.
Vital advice, definitely food for thought. Okay, so beyond personal finance and relationships, does she talk about more traditional investing, like stocks?
Yep, she touches on investing your money in the stock market. It's interesting. She mentions paying someone 10% to manage her investment.
10%? That sounds high.
It is quite high, yeah. For listeners, it's worth noting that typical fees, especially for things like index funds, are usually way, way lower, often less than 1%. But her strategy is interesting. She focuses on the actual economy, not very volatile stuff like crypto or Bitcoin. Prefers established long-term growth.
Less risky, more stable over time.
Right. And he gives some potential return examples, maybe 30% on 100 Kelly in a really good year. Or maybe 10-15%, so $10,000 to $15,000 in a slower year. The point she's making is how much better that is than just leaving it in savings, maybe getting 4% on that 100K. It lets your money make money just by sitting somewhere and growing over the long haul. It won't make you rich overnight, she says, but it builds wealth passively.
Okay, so we've got mindset shifts, smart money moves, investing. But she doesn't just paint a rosy picture, does she? She gets into the hard truths, too.
Oh yeah, she doesn't shy away from the grind. She really emphasizes being ready to work hard, puts it starkly. Becoming truly wealthy is almost like turning a 9-to-5 into a 2-4-7.
That sounds intense.
It is. She talks about her own life the last 3 years. Says she hasn't really relaxed. Always creating content, reading, watching documentaries, just constantly feeding the machine to have ideas for her followers. And she admits it's left her feeling very drained, even almost like a burnout.
That's refreshingly honest.
It is. And she uses other examples. Restaurant owners grinding daily for 30 years. Wealthy business owners who almost never have time. Athletes with their intense training. Strict diets. Her point, big success demands sacrifice. Giving away a lot of your life and a lot of your relationships. Especially with the stress of unstable income if you're self-made.
It really counters that passive income dream sometimes sold online.
Definitely. And related to that, especially for creators like herself, she has a specific warning about branding.
Right, about not making it all about you.
Exactly. Do not make the product you're selling revolve around you too much. This is a big potential pitfall for influencers, celebrities, anyone building a personal brand. If your business success is totally tied to your personal popularity, what happens if people stop liking you? Or you have a scandal?
The business tanks, along with your reputation.
Precisely. So her advice is smart. Try to create a business or product that's separate from you. Doesn't have your name plastered all over it. Something that can stand up as an individual entity, deliver its service regardless of how people feel about you personally that day. Because as she says, when people start to dislike them, they start to boycott their business as well. It's a real risk. Build something resilient.
That's savvy advice for the creator economy. Okay, so work hard, build smartly. What about giving back? She touched on receiving, but does she talk about generosity?
She does, and it's quite a nuanced take. Being generous, but having limits. She strongly believes what you give is what you get back. She has this whole conviction about giving to women, linking it to the divine feminine.
Yeah.
Even claims the most successful men, the most wealthiest men, always are taking care of women. Suggesting generosity, particularly towards women, fuels abundance.
Interesting perspective.
And she lives it, apparently. Gave her first big money to her mom, paid off her house, bought cars, believes in that flow. But, and this is crucial, so she warns against being too generous. Says that overly generous people often never get respected. They get used because their love is unconditional. They don't set boundaries.
The downside of being too nice.
Right. And the result, if you constantly give more than you receive, you end up feeling used, never appreciated. It becomes self-destructive.
Yeah.
So yes, give, she insists, but you also need to receive. Find that balance. Protect your own energy.
That balance seems key. And speaking of self-destruction, she circles back to spending habits again, doesn't she?
She does, reinforcing that earlier point. Overspending on things you don't need ties right back to not just trying to look rich. Warns strongly against buying stuff just to fit in, especially things you truly can't afford. Says you will never win this game trying to impress the genuinely wealthy, the ones with mega yachts, private jets.
You can't compete at that level by buying trinkets.
It is futile.
Totally. She calls it self-sabotage. Seeking validation for people who either have way more or maybe even less than you, it's a losing battle. Be secure in yourself.
Sound advice. Okay, her perspective is very grounded in reality, despite the millionaire status. Does she talk about practical backup plans?
Yes, very much so. She stresses the vital importance of having a plan B. She really pushes back on that romantic idea of just quitting everything to follow your passion, no safety net. Points out that only a very few actors, models, influencers, YouTubers actually really make it. We see the successes, not the failures.
Survivorship bias. Exactly. She warns against quitting college or relying completely on others without having your own stability first. That can lead to big trouble, she says, even homelessness. Mentions people going to LA with stars in their eyes and ending up with nothing. So while she supports dreams, she calls for realism. Acknowledge the odds. We see the 1%, not the hundreds of thousands who tried and didn't make it. Have a backup.
A crucial dose of realism. And her final point, it seems to tie everything back together, this idea about energy.
Yeah, her final and maybe most powerful message. Not being desperate. Desperation, she says, is the worst energy ever. It comes from lack, from fear.
And it repels what you want.
That's our core belief. She talks about her own past. When she was desperate in money early on, it seemed go so quickly, slip through her fingers. The turning point came when she found her purpose, her passion, genuinely helping people with advice on TikTok. And because she was fulfilled by the giving, she did not care as much about the money itself. And that's when the money also came.
Because the desperation was gone.
Right? Anything you're desperate for will run from you, she states. It's a universal truth for her. And her advice here is so down to earth. Need money to start a business, don't be too proud, get a random-ass job. She mentions cleaning toilets, something she did. No shame. Use that to fund your dream.
Wow. Very practical.
And then shift your focus. Recognize what you already have, a roof on top of your head, a phone to watch this on, your health, feet to walk on, gratitude. Because when you focus on that existing abundance, your heart opens up, she believes. And then all the other abundance will come. Because at its core, she sees money as an energy. Attract it with abundance, not lack.
Wow. Okay, this deep dive into villainly's ideas. It really shows that building wealth isn't just about bank balances, is it? It's so much deeper. Mindset shifts, purpose, strategy, hard work, managing your energy, even setting boundaries. It's holistic.
It really is. And it leaves you with a potent thought, doesn't it? If money truly is just an energy that amplifies who you already are, well, it makes you ask, what kind of person are you cultivating today? Knowing that wealth might just put a brighter spotlight on exactly that.
Definitely something to reflect on. We hope these insights help you on your own path to being well-informed and maybe, just maybe, a bit more abundant, too.